Welcome to the Chris Hanna Show. Welcome to another episode of the Chris Hanna Show. Today we're talking about leading authentically, why it's so important, and ultimately why it's the strategy that you need to do if you are a leader. Whether you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're leading a team, at the end of the day, you are a leader. You could have one employee, virtual assistants, contractors, partners that you're working with. The truth is that you need to lead them. But, admittedly, it's hard to lead. Because you're talking about overseeing strategy, critical decisions, people, processes, tools, situations. I've had the pleasure of leading teams for almost 20 years now. And I've learned a lot, and I've made a ton of mistakes along the way too. One thing that I have wrestled with, though, is being myself and feeling authentic. Sometimes you feel like an imposter when it comes to leading. I don't know if anyone out there listening to this has also felt like they've been an imposter or feeling like they have imposter syndrome with anything that they do, but as the leader, it often happens. Faking it till you make it is something that we've all heard, and we've probably done to some degree with our business and in our lives. But there's a cost associated with doing that. Even though you might be the one in charge, there are times when you might be at odds with what you're doing, think you need to act a certain way. Maybe you feel like an outsider. You're at odds with processes and policies and decisions that make you just feel like you're on the outside looking in. Despite these issues, you continue to work and you fake it, and you become someone you know who isn't genuine. Pretending to be someone else instead of your genuine self is exhausting. Trust me, I know. I've been there. You adjust your style, your approach, you try to make it work, but ultimately, you go home drained. You have no energy. It impacts your motivation as you start going through the motions, doing the bare minimum. So many business owners and leaders eventually feel this way at some point in their career. Let's be honest here. The truth is, you know when you're not your authentic self, and when you don't fit in. At least I have. On my first day on the job in a new company many years ago, I didn't fit in, I didn't belong, and I genuinely, at that time, did not want to work for the company. I took the job because I needed a job. I was less than an hour into my initial training, alongside 16 other new recruits, and I felt like this is definitely not going to be a long-term fit for me. I knew right away. I questioned whether I joined a cult because everyone seemed like they were drinking the Kool-Aid. The culture seemed maybe a little bit too forced. There were warning signs everywhere. On day 2, there was only 15 out of 16 people who returned. We're down one person who had already quit. The end of the 5th day of training, we lost 2 more. It was interesting. I needed a job, so I stuck it out, convinced that I could find something else that was better. But I was miserable. I plodded along, doing what I could, and despite the fact that I really believe I truly had a really poor attitude, I was promoted numerous times over my tenure, and at times I made what I would consider exceptional money. But I learned very quickly that money isn't everything. Because no matter how big the bonus or the commission, you can still hate your job. What sucks is that you bring that negativity home, and when you're definitely in a position where, like me, I was miserable 8, 10, 12 plus hours a day at work, it can be really hard. The competitive and the toxic nature ate away at me, and it made me really difficult to be around, and I was really cold with people in all aspects of my life. My friendships and relationships, they fizzled out because I was really miserable. I didn't have the opportunity to feel like I could be myself. And as a leader, it took its toll. It drained me and it caused me to burn out. I felt stuck, and unfortunately, I was just angry all the time. Now, in that tenure with that company, I had interviewed over the years, but I never pulled the trigger, despite being offered opportunities to leave. Money at the time was what I thought the most significant factor. Other times I didn't quit because of the fear of the unknown. But doing so and forcing myself to work in an environment where I knew that I couldn't be me, I couldn't lead the way that I felt like I should lead, made this whole situation even worse on myself. I developed what I would call a self-imposed chip on my shoulder. But I was really scared to admit that I really needed out. And eventually, leaving there changed my whole perspective. I realized that you need to work somewhere to feel like yourself and go home happy. Another point in my career, I had worked in more of a corporate environment, and I was very reluctant to jump into the corporate world. Having, the experience of working more in the rental car industry for a long time, I was used to running things my own way. But I'm a person who I know that doesn't follow the rules and the process as well, so going into a corporate world was concerning to me. But it was different than I expected, as the company I was working for was in hyper-growth mode and really looking to try and scale. So a lot was undefined, and that really appealed to me. I progressed over the years and moved up the corporate ladder, and time, I felt like things had changed for me personally so much that I just didn't feel like I was being myself anymore. And again, led to the same feelings of being burnt out, being exhausted. I had created myself a decent little spot, and I was successful, but things definitely didn't feel right. When things become so clearly obvious that it's not a fit anymore, when it's either too routine or it feels like you're going through the motions, it is obvious to yourself, and sometimes you don't want to admit it, but I came to realize that. I knew also that as companies scale, they have to put in more processes to make sure we have consistent, repeatable results. But that didn't fit in with me. If anyone's ever done the predictive index test before, there's a variety of different personality types, and my personality type is what's called a venturer. So what that means is that lots of structure and rules don't really appeal to me. So in the case of working in a more corporate environment where there's a lot more rules and processes, I started to feel more like the imposter again. Someone who just didn't belong. I figured I could fake it and I could lead the way I was asked to being led, but it just didn't align with me. And again, I figured that long term, this is probably not the path that I need to be on. But I was good at my job, so I figured I'll just power through and I will fake it. I faked it for a long time, but I felt inauthentic. And every year I kept saying, it's one more year, one more year. But those one more years added up, and worse yet, I began to really struggle mentally. I was in this constant fog. My performance didn't slip, but I had really checked out in a lot of ways. I got to what I would call that quit and stay moment, where I just did not feel like I cared anymore. And I went through the motions. Liked working with my direct team, but I was more tired and exhausted every single day because, again, I wasn't myself. Now, not being my authentic self, combined with not just feeling aligned to what was going on around me, it came to realize I needed to shift my mindset drastically. I wanted freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment because I wanted to be my authentic self. So one day I asked myself this one question, which changed everything. I said, if today was my last day on earth, what would I regret not doing? That question changed everything for me. Asking myself that question opened my eyes and changed my perspective. For far too long, I didn't feel like I was acting the way I wanted to act. I pretended to want things that I didn't genuinely desire. When I asked myself that big question, it became clear to me that I wanted, more than anything else, to stop pretending and to just be me, my authentic self. Now that might sound simple, but I wanted to be open and transparent. I didn't want to be hiding behind processes or censor myself in any way. I leaned being more direct. And in a corporate world, that's a really tough thing to do. So I wanted more autonomy and the chance to be more creative. But in a corporation, you're often stuck implementing someone else's vision. And maybe at slower speeds as well. So going back to my personality type, I really realized that I need to thrive in less structure and in more of an environment where speed is preferred. So for years, I just, at that point, had been running on autopilot. I wasn't learning, wasn't growing as much as I desired. And again, I felt inauthentic and felt like I was really slowed down and following directions much more than I liked. So I mapped out goals and decided I need to figure out how I can stop pretending. And I was flooded with this wave of positive emotion and clarity. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt more energized and excited to tackle the day because I had set goals for myself to invest in myself in my personal and professional development and to start to tackle things that I wanted to do and I did not want to regret never having done if, again, today was my last day on Earth. So I began to value time more and started pursuing opportunities to learn, grow, and evolve. I taught myself new skills, tackled exciting challenges, and I connected with more like-minded people. And I started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. What once felt like a black hole showed signs of light because I had the right attitude and mindset. And I invested heavily again in my personal and professional development, and it started to spark changes in myself. And I came to realize what leaders need more than anything else, or at least a leader like me, is freedom to make decisions. I wanted to challenge processes and rethink and evolve the approach to managing and leading. The old ways of leading I felt needed to evolve within organizations in general. I came to realize that freedom for me meant not being constrained by hours worked or following specific processes or speaking certain ways. I came to see also that leaders often are firefighting, putting out unnecessary fires that are started by themselves, other leaders, or just the business in general. So I came to that realization and I started to create my own goals and decided I need to get back to being me, the person I used to be. You see, I always wanted to speak. I was the kid that was doing all the speaking competitions or the lead actor in the school plays growing up. I wanted to share and educate, and when I graduated from high school, I thought about honestly being a teacher too. I decided I could either go down the teaching route or I could go down the business route. But when I was younger, I was also a hustler. I was peddling hockey cards. I was creating personal study and self-help cassettes. That's how old I am. I'm talking about cassettes on select topics in high school, running garage sales, finding ways just to flip products, essentially. So with that entrepreneurial spirit in mind, at the time when I was in university, I decided I need to choose business communications as the degree of choice. As I saw a teaching world, again, locking me into more of those rules, like following a curriculum. So that eventually led for me to start to do my own side hustles when I started to map out these goals for myself many years back. Again, speaking was that main idea that I wanted to pursue. I wanted other opportunities and moments of professional development. The intense feeling of faking it too much and not being me led me to a creation point where I started to create the person that I wanted to be by being really intentional about developing new skills, connections, experiences that I use now to this day, so much more than anything else I've ever done, and it gives me way more fulfillment. Working in the corporate world, doing what I need to do from a full-time role perspective, and balancing side hustles, though, was obviously challenging. And yeah, I didn't move on from the corporate world on my own timeline or on my own terms. It was definitely the best thing to ever happen for me. And it was honestly a huge sense of relief when it did happen. Because for the first time in a long time, I no longer felt tired, exhausted, or burnt out. Because I started to feel like I was now myself again. I was able to fully embrace the side hustle entrepreneurial side of myself and pursue my interests. I had to find fulfillment elsewhere, and that's where starting to chase down the goals that you want to do was so critical for me to feel like I no longer need to fake it. I felt like I lived two different lives, right? One where I was trying to balance how to lead in various organizations, and the other of I have these other desires that I want to do, but I'm just afraid to take action. And ultimately, I think it leads me to this piece of advice, is that you need to carve your own path. The best advice I can give you is that you got to find your own way and create your own path. Carve it out. Don't drag it out and do things too long if you're miserable. Do something about it. The negative impact on your life, your mental health, your relationships, the well-being of others outweighs any job that you're doing. faking it is exhausting. Pretending to act a certain way sucks big time. So ask yourself that one question. If today was my last day on earth, what would I regret not doing in my career? If the answer to that question is in what you're doing now or soon to be doing, you need to do something about it as soon as you can. If you're a leader, you must be yourself because it will shine through if you try to fake it. Now, you may try to course correct, but it also can be exhausting. You need to find ways that you can be yourself, and you will attract people who want to work with you. Be yourself in every situation possible. Not everyone can follow their passion or turn it into something that's ultimately going to make them money, though. If you can, that's great. Follow your talents and strengths so you can work in a role that allows you to be the best version of yourself. Be someone that you can look in the mirror and ultimately live with. So many people honestly choose to be miserable, complaining about everything, but doing nothing to change their circumstances. You have the power to decide your future and your level of happiness. Now, for some people, you're visionaries. You can develop ideas, but you can't efficiently execute them. Others, it's the reverse. You need to figure out what type of person you are, if you're a business owner or a leader especially, and go all in on being that person. Now, for the skills that you don't have or you don't care to learn, that's where hiring a team and delegating to the right person is critical to your success. If you feel inauthentic and not your true self, know this: you ultimately do have the power to change. So let's offer here a little bit of an exercise that's going to help you. Make a list of everything and anything you really enjoy and are passionate about. This can be anything at all. Write down everything you think of, no matter how silly or pointless you think it may be. Everything's essential here, and it's got to be included on your list. Now go through your list and ask yourself whether you are genuinely passionate about each one that you've listed. Ask the question of, if someone offered to pay you to do this, would you be happy? If you wouldn't be happy, cross it off your list. Look at each item on your list and ask yourself also, what do you enjoy about it? The why behind enjoying something is significant because it gives you insight into your motivation. When you understand what you enjoy about something, you can apply that to improve your overall happiness. Now, once you've identified the things you're passionate about, write down next to each one how many times per month, how many hours per month do you spend doing them? From now on, though, commit yourself to spending time doing only the things that you're passionate about every month. You will find that not only does your level of happiness improve, but your energy will increase as well. And life feels so much better because you're doing the things that you love. Now, you might be saying there's a lot of stuff that you have to do that you don't like, or you just have to do it. Well, this is where I think you need to find a way to remove them from your life in some way or form. Delegate them, train someone else, or just stop doing them. Because you do not have to do everything. For example, say you're working for yourself. You're leading a business, or you have maybe multiple businesses. You're probably wearing too many hats, and ones that you really shouldn't. So to be the most influential person in your business, you need to lead yourself first. And that comes to learning and understanding whether you have what it takes to actually be the right type of leader. The first thing you need is what I call motivation. Because you got to motivate yourself and not rely on others to push you along. You are the boss. Working for yourself is all your responsibility. If you cannot take responsibility, you are best staying in employment and not working for yourself. You also have to have belief, because you must believe in yourself in the business that you're working in. It's challenging to do well at something that you do not fully believe in. Trust me, I've been there. Therefore, before starting any business or maybe selling any product, ask yourself if you fully believe in the product or business. It's also critical that you invest in professional development. It's important to develop yourself and increase your skills because you have to stay one step ahead of the competition to be really phenomenal. And lastly, I think you need determination. You must be determined to succeed and not give up. There are times when it will be challenging. But again, if you're trying to lead a team, grow a business, you're an entrepreneur, you are the boss. You may not succeed in everything the first time around, but it's about progress over perfection, always. So ask yourself the question, if you could do anything at all, what would it be? The answer to this question will help you determine which items on your list to pursue first, because it's important not to spread yourself too thin. Otherwise, you may find that nothing ever gets done. You have to ultimately learn how to prioritize and operate in your zone of strength, doing what you do best, going all in on what matters. Now, as I talk a lot about leadership, I think it's important to remember this as well. That leadership, whether you're leading yourself, you're leading your team, leading a business, it's a process. Although certain people definitely are what appears to be born with innate leadership qualities, they may fail to develop their full potential without the right environment and exposure. So like learning how to ride a bike, you can learn how to become a leader and hone your leadership abilities. You do not need to become a leader in one day, and it's not impossible to really become a leader in just one day and just stop. Lifelong learning is essential in becoming such a good leader. Each day brings new experiences that put your knowledge, your skills, your attitude to the test, but you need to put yourself in the right environment with the right people. Leadership also, though, starts with you. The best way to develop leadership qualities is to apply them to your own life. To lead well, you need to bring your best self forward every single day. That doesn't mean, though, you need to know all the answers. My first leadership role, my manager at the time told me, Chris, you don't need to know all the answers. You just need to be willing to go and find the answers. I remind my current team of this every single week. Sometimes we think we need to know everything as a leader. That honestly sometimes helps us feel like we are authentic and legit as leaders. But there's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know everything. Most times, in my experience, the people that you lead will appreciate that. And they are more willing to help. So be open and vulnerable with your team. Remember that all leadership is situational, and we face situations as leaders, and that change happens daily. Now, if you fast forward to today, I've been on a mission for the last little while here to be my authentic self as a leader in my role as CEO of Cashflow Tribe. I no longer fake it. And honestly, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my career because I don't feel exhausted, drained, tired at the end of the day, trying to be someone that I think everyone wants me to be. I just be me. I've had more opportunities now to connect with family and build my network and have a stronger relationship than I've ever had by just being me too. I've also developed even more confidence in my abilities and had more success and clarity than ever before as well. I think it's the result, honestly, of just trying to be me and not pretending to be someone else, because when you're just being you, things are a lot easier. When you try to be someone else, someone that you're not meant to be, it sucks up a lot of energy and time is the one resource that we can never get back. It's hard, though, I'll admit, leading the efforts of a growing company, where we always are looking to try and scale our efforts. But it's very enjoyable, and probably one of the most enjoyable periods of my career. I feel so much more fulfilled, and I'm not going to lie, it is complicated, it is challenging, but it's refreshing to be the type of leader that you want to be, and it makes for a heck of a fantastic adventure. I'd say since, becoming CEO, many people in my network have asked me what it's like to work for a startup compared to other environments that I've done. And I think probably the most significant differences I talk about is really speed. Anyone who knows me knows that I like to move fast, but everything is at warp speed when you're in a growing startup culture, which is something that I've come to love. I have always, of course, would love to go faster, but I know that as a leader, we can't expect everyone to match our speed and our interests, as everyone is different. So you might be wondering kind of what's next, as I've kind of talked through this little mini journey about leading authentically. Well, I look forward to continuing the journey and seeing really what happens next, and taking whatever comes as authentically as possible. We never know the end destination of what leads to where sometimes. The truth is, we never truly know the ending. We also never fully understand the journey until we stop and reflect on the previous events that led us here. I'm thankful for all that has happened throughout my career, as it keeps providing me opportunities to learn, grow, and ultimately evolve. The journey has been transformative, leading to me to be probably happier today than I've ever been. And I don't know what comes next, but I know that I will embrace it, whatever it is. And I will do it no longer by faking it. Until next time with the Chris Hanna Show, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns on anything here and I can help, please don't hesitate to let me know. Always happy to connect and talk and share and help everyone evolve and achieve more.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Chris Hanna Show. As always, the latest episodes are available to listen and subscribe to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow The Chris Hanna Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. For more resources and solutions, including blog posts, toolkits, ebooks, speaking sessions, and more, visit chrishanna.ca today. We look forward to connecting again with you soon for another episode of The Chris Hanna Show.